Okay, so yeah, thanks for joining us for the first Singapore Marine webinar that we're going to be going in. It's probably tackling one of the biggest and hottest topics that we can talk about. So before we just get started, my name is Wade Pearce, and I head up the Singapore Marine Guide, or SG Marine Guide, that you might know. What we are is like an online digital directory. So we try to change a little bit of the landscape of just being a normal directory. We turn it into like more of a content grabbing, going out to see places and explore, and then provide that content to everybody. So that's a little bit about us. Why we started this webinar series is that there's such a big community of people and a big industry in Singapore, and a lot of people, I think, underestimated it, and especially before COVID, we didn't have a very strong community base. And over the last 6 months, I've really got to know a lot of the people in this community, and I think that there's a lot more stories that we could be telling. So hopefully by having this webinar series, we can get together more often, talk about the challenges we have, but also talk about things that are actually going really well for everybody and how we could all work together. And then get back into it. This first one is obviously it's on everyone's mind all the time as soon as we leave shores. I'm super lucky that I've got a couple of friends that have signed up to help me talk about this one. Sorry, we've still got people coming in. And along with that, I'm going to be talking a little bit about Boaters Against Plastic, what we did. But the main point that I would like to see, like, people really understanding from this presentation is that although you can't change, what's going on in other countries, you can't stop plastic, you can't stop people eating fish, you can't stop this. There is little things that you can do, and once you're out there doing things, you can actually start to realize that you have an impact on the environment and how we can stop that. So today, going to be joined by James Roy. So he's the Marina manager and director of 115 Marinas. So he's going to be talking a little bit about what marinas can do a little bit to help marine life and to also stop single-use plastic from going down the docks. Then we're going to move on to Mathilda De Silva. So Mathilda has a bunch of different projects with Ocean Purpose Project. It's going to be really interesting to hear what she's up to, how she goes about getting all the projects done, and how she can help change people's behaviour when it comes to going down to the shores and checking things out and working out where things come from. Then we're going to be followed by Stephen Beng. Stephen was one of the first people I spoke to about the Singapore marine life, going diving and checking things out. And he actually heads up the Friends of the Marine Park community. And they actually are in charge, or they help to facilitate activities over at the marine park. So Sisters Island Marine Park, Te Kuko, and St. John's. So it's going to be really interesting to hear what he's got to say about what they're doing. And then we're going to have Sue Ye. So Sue heads up the Marine Stewards, and part of the Marine Stewards goal is to go around and talk about sustainable fishing, hopefully come up with some solutions to stop overfishing and to spread the word. So it's awesome to have an all-star cast like this. It's not every day that you actually get to have people like this into one chat. So I'm just super happy, and really good. So first off, just going to have a little chat about. Sorry, still got people coming in. Just going to have a little chat about the Boaters Against Plastic. Now, this is Pulla Hunt 2. This is where it really sank in that it's not just about what's around us and what other people are doing to stop pollution, to stop overfishing, to stop this, but it's actually that type of reflection. So going to do something, going to get your hands dirty. And I really thank Nico Savelli for really pushing this through. And Boaters Against Plastic started off just as an idea, but turned into multiple, up to 20 boaters going to the different islands to check out what's there, what's the rubbish there, and then to collect it up. So we were able to move on to doing our first Boaters Against Plastic cleanup, which we got helped by 7 Clean Seas. And it was a super successful event, picked up 2 tons of rubbish off there. And again, it was that thought that actually by going here and picking up multiple plastic bottles, okay, and thinking about how many times have I actually taken plastic bottles down to the boat? How many times have I taken plastic bottles out to sea? All right, how many times I've gone to get the plastic bottle wrapped in plastic, carrying with 2 plastic bags, and that's something to really think about, I believe, because we can all point our fingers at different countries that are neighboring countries or whatever, but sometimes we can actually just have a look and think about what we're doing as well and how we could change that. So that was a super successful event, and just really stoked to be a part of it. The second one was as successful, and we had even more participation in this event. This time we decided to do it a little bit differently, and we collected 144 bags of rubbish around Huntu. Now, it's a small island, but we could have been there the next weekend and the next weekend and the next weekend, and we could have been picking up just as much. Heron of the Green Barrels, they really helped out with this and spreading the message and getting the message across. And I suppose when they started talking about it, they go do cleanups every day. They're walking around Sentosa. I recommend to join them. And it was also listening to what they're saying as well. It's just like, yeah, well, you know what? It might not make a difference, might not look like it makes a difference, but we're changing our behavior and we're changing the way that we're going about with the environment, and then different things like that. So that came down to what the solutions are. So this is all the problems, and we can talk about it all we like. But then I thought about it, and I got to meet up with a gentleman called Dan Paris, and he introduced me to Epic Water. And Epic Water can be put onto your boat, and we're actually going to be giving away one of the filters dispensers that you see just here. And at the end, it's going to be a survey. We want to just fill out the survey, send it back, and then I'll be going live maybe tomorrow or the next day to give that winner away. And so I now carry that bottle with me everywhere. I've actually got it here. Forgot to. And so, yes, so I carry it around everywhere with me now, and it's got just a filter in it, pull it off. And I'll probably go through a little bit later, another time when we go live. But you can, so you can carry it around the boat. So that became one of the solutions. And since then, I've never actually taken any plastic bottle onto the boat. I've actually gone to think about it and gone, oh, hang on, I forgot my bottle. And I'm going to go 7-Eleven, pick it up. And I thought about it. I said, what am I doing all this work for months and months and then just leaving it away? So I went home, picked it up and came back. So cool. So that's why I really think that we're here today to talk about what we can do as people, as like personally, what we can do, and take a little bit of self-reflection. Along the way, I really like to get you to see the different people in our community who are doing amazing things, and that's why I thought it'd be great to pull together. So I'm going to hand you over to James Roy from the Marina here, and okay, stop.
Okay. Thank you very much, Wade, for the great introduction. You're hearing a bit of echo because I'm in the same room as Wade, but with a different background. So basically, I just want to go through exactly what us and the Marina are doing, and I'm going to share a small presentation what 115 does. And just bear with me a second. Okay, so. Right, so obviously everybody knows the brand of 115, well, hopefully everybody knows the brand of 115. Now, we have actually an environmental policy at 115. So we wrote this alongside a couple of our industry associations as well. So we're very much mimicking the standard policy. So, you know, I'm not going to read it word for word, but I'm just going to quickly go through it. So obviously, making sure our environmental impact is in with the legal borders and the restraints of the country that we're in, obviously. I mean, we designed this to go across many of our marinas, not just the one in Sentosa, Singapore. And then obviously the other one is to ensure that the club is boating safely without, you know, spilling stuff, pollution, water runoff, everything like this, you know. So we have actually gone through and done a risk assessment of the site, minimize our electricity outtake, you know, so we're replacing things like fluorescent or halogen for LED bulbs. We've actually just finished a reconfiguration, and we've now replaced all the lights from fluorescent lights or halogen lights to LED ones. So we're trying to lessen the impact. Two reasons: purely to try and save the environment, and also you cut down the electricity costs and save some money in the back end as well. And then obviously minimizing the single-use plastics. We actually, in the club ourselves, we stopped using a lot of the polystyrene boxes. We don't use plastic forks. We go with recyclable stuff. Straws now, you know, we've gone to paper. We don't sell plastic bottles in the clubhouse. You know, a couple of events we have plastic bottles here and there, but we've minimized that now. And obviously we do recycle. We do have recycling centers within the marina as well. And we are just rolling out a new recycle bin policy as well for the marina. So on the pontoons, we're going to have the colored bins to separate rubbish. Now, whatever country you're in, they have different rules and regulations. And you know, I've been working in many different countries around the world, but you know, whatever the infrastructure locally is designed for is what you can realistically pick up. So, you know, obviously single-use plastic, we can collect this. Glass bottles, very easy to collect. They actually pay us to pick this sort of stuff up. Aluminium cans, beautiful, they can recycle them straight away. Hey, you know, there's not been, you know, that much good press about picking up plastic and trying to recycle it, but obviously trying to avoid going into the landfill is the main thing. Let me just go on to the next page. So 115, we're a part of the Marine Industry Association, which is the Australian-based governing body for us. Now we're International Clean Marina Level 4. So there's only 3 of them which are actually that level, which is one of us. So you can see us down the bottom and the second one down. So obviously Australia, Thailand, and then which is obviously Phuket, and then us as well. So quite a few of them actually obtain level 3, but we actually level 4, and we're actually going to our fish friendly accreditation as well, which basically we get audited and we have to comply by a whole lot of stuff, and we pay our auditor to turn up. He looks around the place, checks every single thing we've written down, checks to make sure it's all correct, and then sends that off for review, and then we get it as accreditation. So it's not just a pay a fee and get a stamp type technique. It is actually, you have to do some stuff. So this is our main focus. So the actual clean marina is obviously trying to target, you know, a non-point source pollution, which is water runoff from things like the slipway, from drains, you know, those sort of things. So we're trying to stop pollution actually seeping into the water. Now we can do our best, but obviously we're locked very much into the environment around us. You know, if we stop throwing rubbish in ourselves, we've also got rubbish coming in from other countries. So we also go around and collect this sort of stuff. We've got a working sea bin as well in the marina as well. So just trying to minimize the waste. Now, obviously, there's 2 sides of it. There's what we do as a marina, and obviously what boaters can do. So obviously everybody knows exactly what to do, but the main thing is obviously to try to cut down on single-use plastics. You know, trying to avoid chucking anything over the side. Obviously avoid, you know, this is that surprising thing, the kind of like the face scrubs. Those all have microplastics in it as well. So you need to avoid exactly what you're pouring down the sink, which is going into the marina as well, because that's just going straight over the side. Things like orange peels, banana skins, you know, people think it's okay to chuck that sort of stuff into the water because they think it's fish food. It takes 2 years sometimes to biodegrade. So that side of the thing is very important to know. Obviously, reducing the amount of waste that you produce, you know, not throwing everything into one bin, trying to separate your rubbish is very valuable to us. You know, obviously we collected recycles, you know, a part of it. You know, those who know the Marina, we do pick up from one bin, and any cardboard boxes go into a separate area. We do try and help as much as we can, but you know, we're limited to what we can exactly throw away and everything. But we do have a recycling policy, and like I said before, it's going to be a bit more extensive. And obviously, dispose of responsibility. So you know, obviously, think what you're throwing away, think what you're buying is more important, and just think ahead before you just chuck stuff lying into the bin, because it's going somewhere, right? Now, this is probably the main concern of ours right now, and obviously pumping out, you know, whatever you do in your toilet on your boat goes directly into the sea unless you have a holding tank. Now, we obviously have the pumping out facility in the Marina. We take upwards of about 1,000 liters a week easily, even at low points from the boats, which have crew living on board, as well as people living on board as well. And we dispose of this into the sewage system, which then goes off to be treated in the local sewage area. Things to watch out for, obviously, is use a facility that we provide, the pump out facility. Don't empty your holding tanks if you have them, you know, more than 3 miles, so less than 3 miles offshore. If you're using the toilets, use it in open water, but it can be diluted easily. Take extra care, you know, with poor flushing areas, and then obviously consider the environment when you're going to the toilet. This is quite a funny thing to say, but you just try and keep your mind open, know exactly where that thing's going when you pump it out of your toilet into the sea, and definitely don't do that in the Marina, because it's a constrained waterway. So it all floats up, and then people swim in it when they're cleaning the outside of their boat, right? So try and be a good neighbor. That's pretty much for 115. I did skirt through it. I was very conscious about the time, but I think that's pretty much it. I'll stop sharing now, and then we can take back over.
Awesome, thanks, James. Yeah, that was super insightful. And just want to say, like, that 115 is the host of this webinar, and thank you very much for that, digital host. And cool. So I just want to move on to Mathilda from Motion Purpose Plastic, and yeah, let you go from here, Mathilda.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Good. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Wade from Singapore Marine Guides, for having me on. Thanks, James, for chatting to us about 1°15. You know, my name is Mathilda, and I am the CEO and founder of Ocean Purpose Project. So let me just take you back to 2015, which is really where it all began. I was representing Singapore in a dragon boat race. As you can see, there was 120 of us. We really wanted to win medals in Boracay. You know, this is the beautiful island of Boracay in the Philippines. You can see all the medals we won. Unfortunately, I can't show you all the beer we drank, but, you know, we had a great time. I specifically chose this aerial photo just to show you all of us warming up despite our hangovers. You know, the water was absolutely gorgeous. We were swimming, playing in the water, and having a great time. Unfortunately, when I came back to Singapore, I was hospitalized for 3 days. Now, the clue is really in that picture that you're looking at. There was this massive amount of green stuff that just kept washing up on the beach. And really, what that was, okay, let me see. Am I sharing the screen? Yeah, are you able to see the screen? Are you guys able to see the screen? Okay, I think, yeah, should be able to see the screen now, right? Yep, okay, great. So if you're looking at this picture right now, thank you so much to DJ and Mark for letting me know that you can't see the screen, but yeah. So that was me racing in Philippines. That was the water that was washing up. We didn't know that The water that we were standing in was actually raw sewage that was coming from all the hotels and the restaurants into these very touristic beaches. Now, this happened in 2015. When I came back and was hospitalized, I literally found myself developing vitiligo. My hair turned white. I had problems speaking, sometimes even holding things. If I started paddling, I lost sometimes the ability to even hold on to the paddle. So my days of competitive paddling have gone. But I mean, that was just me having 3 days of exposure to polluted water. I mean, how bad does it have to get before an island gets shut down for 6 months, right? And as James was pointing out in terms of releasing that sewage, imagine, the people that live on that island, many of them my friends who run dive centers, who are lifeguards, who are the Marines as well that protect the island, how do they and their children deal with that? And this was something that really kind of stuck with me, because I was thinking to myself, is this the reality of children that grow up in today's world in Asia? This is not the kind of beach or river that I grew up swimming and playing in. How can this be a reality for millions of children around, where I live? How is it that something that happened to me, can there be some sort of purpose that comes from this? That makes me sort of stop getting so irritated and upset with what's occurred to me and move towards action. And that's really where Ocean Purpose Project began. We're a social enterprise proudly based in Pasir Ris, Singapore. And what we try to do is we try to create innovative projects that are aimed at solving not just the ocean plastic crisis, but also at promoting ocean conservation at scale. Now, the key here is, how do we do that with partnerships? This is not something that we can sort of do alone. It really requires help from people like you guys, boaters in the boating community, conservation groups, as well as people that just really care about our oceans and love it too. So these are our 3 pillars of Ocean Purpose Project. We look at solving the ocean plastic crisis and promoting ocean conservation in 3 ways. The first being plastic to fuel, which is really, how do we clean up all of that stuff that's floating out at sea, right? That's big enough to form the size of 3 Frances put together. The second is, how do we reinvent what plastic means, right? How do we create a plastic that moves from polluting our oceans into possibly cleaning it up and maybe even helping to fight climate change? The third is, how do we drive behavior change? Not just at scale or in fancy Instagram story or social media marketing, but behavior change that really moves the needle, that starts with us and is able to move anybody from a president right down to a poor islander. And that's the 3 pillars of Ocean Purpose Project. And I'm going to walk you through how we do that right now. We start with plastic to fuel. I mean, it's a basic question, right? If plastic comes from oil, why can't we turn it back into oil? Sounds very duh, but the truth is, it is actually that simple and that complex at the same time. Now, what we decided to do in 2019, it was me, and by we, I mean me and a Pilates teacher that was based in Indonesia. We thought to ourselves, okay, we've been going for all of these beach cleanups at East Coast, and we're looking at the problem, but knowing our character, we just got so irritated and frustrated with seeing all of this beach cleanups and thinking to ourselves, in the grand scheme of things, right, how does my 2 bags of plastic really change the lives of people that are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis? And so in 2019, we said, okay, we're going to find a solution to this at scale. It just so happens that on the island of Madang, Indonesia, there was a teacher, the only man who speaks English, who reached out to as many people from the resorts in that area as possible and said, we are inundated with 2 to 3 meters of ocean plastic after each storm. Please, can someone send help? Now, through word of mouth, Lisa, who's a Pilates teacher, was working at a resort, managed to hear about him. And to cut the long story of blood, sweat, and tears and pain and sadness, in the start of 2019, we said, okay, we're going to send them a plastic to fuel solution. We had no idea how we were going to get it done. We had no idea who was going to help us to do it. But by July, 2 days before my birthday, we were able to deliver that machine, and you can see it right up there. Of course, the government officials were very excited about it. They came down, helped us to install it. And that machine is on Madang Island today, converting waste plastic into low sulfur fuel for all of these islanders to use. Now, that's free fuel for these islanders. You tell a poor person, care for the environment, they'll turn to you and say, hey, I've got children to feed and I've got like electricity to pay for. How do I care for the environment? But if you tell them, don't throw your plastics into the sea or into the rivers. Instead, you can even do your cleanups and you can turn that plastic into fuel that you can put in your generators. And of course, for those in the boating community, you can use that fuel for your boats as well. It's low sulfur, perfectly in line with the IMO 2020 regulations, and you get free fuel. And really, that was the game changer. You know, today, on an island where they cannot receive PPE or even the COVID vaccine or medical supplies, these guys are able to solve at least their energy problem because of this turnkey solution that we've delivered to them. Now, of course, the machine that we built, we raised funds among the paddling community, the dragon boaters, and the machine that we sent them wasn't great. For $10,000, honestly, I'm not proud of that machine, but that's the reason why last year we worked together with Shell. And we now have the OPP PTF unit. You guys are seeing very exclusive footage of how that looks like. And really what that is a plastic to fuel unit that's filled with best-in-class technology from Germany, India, and Singapore that is able to convert plastic, all sorts, into fuel, as well as other valuable byproducts. Now, one heavy hitter unit like that fits in a 40-foot container can be shipped over land and sea. And this can also convert 730 tons of unsorted ocean plastic into product. That's 6 blue whales in weight a year. Now, of course, we can scale up. We can also scale out and scale down, depending on what the needs are for the community. We have a lot of inquiries that are starting to come in for crisis response that has been asking us, hey, could this be used to mitigate coastal storms, where there has been power outage and where there is massive influx of waves that have brought waste plastic onto the shores. So our unit is actually able to combat those two problems in one. So that's the plastic to fuel solution. Now let's go to the second pillar, right? Which is, how do we create a new kind of bioplastic? Not the bioplastic, which is 30% made of organic materials and maybe 70% of it is still plastic polymer. No, what we mean is 100% biodegradable, but not just that, plastic that cleans our oceans and is able to fight climate change as well. That's the game changer with our second pillar, and that's what we're aiming to do here with our Bioplastics project. Now, before I get there, I want to talk a little bit about Algae Bloom. You know, I'm sure for those of you in the boating community out there in Sentosa, you guys know, you saw this, was it earlier this year, where your rivers turned pink. You know, to be honest, there was a massive amount of fish kill. You know, this algae bloom was something that kind of came out of nowhere, but to be honest, it's also got to do a lot with rains and the excessive amount of nutrient that's in the water. Now, this is not something that is exclusive to Sentosa. This is a problem that occurs right here in my backyard. I'm here in Pasir Ris right now. This happens at the start of the year, just before Chinese New Year, almost every year here in Pasir Ris. Now, the difference between Sentosa and Pasir Ris is, in my neck of the woods, there are about 60 kelongs or offshore fish farms that help to supply fish to the rest of Singapore. Now, if these 60 kelongs are faced with algae bloom that causes massive fish kill, and this happens right before Chinese New Year, just think about the impact to these 60 business owners and farmers. Now, best not you hear it from me. I'm just going to play this little video and hopefully you would be able to see it. Just let me know if you can hear it as well. Sorry, guys. I think you might be having a little bit of problem watching the video, is it? Okay, so just to share with you, in case you can't hear it or the video is skipping, this is our lovely Uncle Heng. So Uncle Heng is a kelong that we work very closely with. And Uncle Heng is basically sharing a little bit about some of the hardships that he goes through. You know, basically, he has gone through algae bloom 4 or 5 times. Each time he loses $500,000. And this last time really almost cleaned his clock and wiped him out. You know, so this is where with us, what we're trying to do with Uncle Heng is say, maybe we can solve the issue of plastics pollution as well as your algae bloom problem with one solution. So I'll share what that is. Maybe later I'll share the link to the video as well so you can see what that is. So really what we're doing with Uncle Heng, those are pictures from his kelong. We are creating a curtain of seaweed and mussels that will protect Uncle Heng's kelong and his fish when there is an algae bloom. Now, one mussel can actually process couple of 1,000 liters of water a year. You know, and so a seaweed and mussel line is really a biofilter, or I think they call it bioremediary. Maybe, you know, Stephen will be able to tell me a little bit more about that. But what it does is it's actually removing toxins and excess nutrients from that water and creating that barrier to be able to give a fighting chance to those fish. Now, of course, we can't eat that seaweed and mussels, but what can we use it for? We can turn that into a new type of plastic. Now, let me show you a picture of how that looks like. On my left hand, the hand with the bracelet, that's a picture of plastic waste that we picked up from the beaches. On my right hand is a picture of seaweed plastic. And we actually do sell seaweed plastic from our Indonesian partner. But moving forward, this is something that we want to do in Pasir Ris and really give our kelong uncles a fighting chance the next time an algae bloom comes along. All right. So then comes the last bit, right? How do we drive behavior change at scale and do that both in the private sphere and in the public sphere? And really how we do that is Ocean Purpose Project has an online community of about 21,000 people and followers. My background, I used to be a Channel News Asia TV producer, and I used to be a radio DJ. So that's kind of where that comes from. I was also the head of community for StarHub, DBS, and MediaCorp. So, you know, I bring a lot of my marketing background into what it is that we do. But as a marketing person, I also get kind of irritated with awareness campaigns. I'm like, oh my God, we need to move beyond this stuff. We need to start thinking about solutions and really engineering around that stuff. But that said, it's really important that we are also together with the community and mobilizing the community, which is why I'm so thankful for, you know, opportunities such as this, for us to really just get together, start talking about the issues plaguing our oceans and what we can do in our own private capacity to address that. Now, some of the things that we do, that's our social media platform and our footprint. We were mentored by Shell for that plastic to fuel solution. So for those of you who are wondering, how did a TV producer and a Pilates teacher advance from that plastic to fuel solution? Well, it got picked up by Shell. So really, honestly, guys, you don't need to have the background into this stuff. You just need to get stuck in, research, and who knows, you might be able to come up with the technology to be able to solve big problems around our oceans, you know, around our ocean pollution. So those are some of the things that we do. We are also working together with NParks and Public Hygiene Council. We look after clean pods in Pasir Ris Park. So if you want to do a beach cleanup in Pasir Ris, let us know. We'll hook you up with all of the equipment. You know, I don't want to boast, but to be honest, you know, some of the things that we do, we really kind of need to have that recognition in order for us to move forward. Sometimes when we work with agencies, they're kind of like, did you win an award yet? And we're like, yeah, okay. And then, you know, that's how we get noticed. But then the truth is that, you know, what made us really proud was to represent Singapore on the global stage and to really talk about my beautiful home of Pasir Ris and all the things that we want to do here. So of course, this is a bit boasty, but you know, I think this just kind of shows you that there's something there in what we're trying to do. But really, this is the pride and joy of Ocean Purpose Project. Proudly, Pasir Ris mobilized. Our mandate, and this is one that I've given my own company, is to mobilize 140,000 residents, people who work, live, and play in my town, to organically love their beaches. To do beach cleanups is just a thing that you do on the weekends, to really think about the waste that washes up. And also, to mobilize ministers. We've got our minister Desmond up there with the red and white mask. He's very active. He loves, kind of integrating his morning runs and workout with our beach cleanups. We work with our beach cleaners, whose job it is to actually clean the beaches Monday to Sunday. We throw little parties for them. We mobilize children to help us look at problems very straightforwardly, and they are the best at doing that. We do learning journeys with them, with schools, and also with young kids who just want to start leading their own groups. And we teach Pasir Ris residents how to run their own cleanups during COVID. And for us, we also work, as you can see, that's Uncle Heng with an epic water filter. That's the 8-liter one. In fact, we're trying to also get Pasir Ris residents or anybody really to help donate these water filters to our kelongs so that they can have rainwater and turn that into drinking water. I've tried it. It's fantastic. It goes great with a coffee. So these are some of the things that we do. And really, it's about mobilizing the community and getting stuck in. So, beyond Singapore, some of the projects that we are doing are working with, we work with a dive company that got stranded in Indonesia. What we've done is we've turned their stranding in East Bali. What a tough place to be stranded in, really. We've turned that into, an opportunity for them to also get stuck in with the community and drive work for the dive community in East Bali that is all but almost collapsed. We do these coral reforestation programs where we slap a company's corporate logo on it, and we just really help to populate that ecosystem, which unfortunately, due to COVID, there was a lot of illegal trawling and fishing that was done in that area that is almost obliterated, some of East Bali's beautiful dive spots. As divers, you guys would sympathize. So these are some of the things that we do with the community and how we drive behavior change. We're actually working on a beautiful project right now to get sponsorship for some of these coastal islanders in the village of Padang Bay to get their diving license, but also teaching them how to work in the conservation area so that they can get jobs and then maybe even go off and start companies that are focused on driving conservation instead of coral farming or other activities. So that's really what we do. And that's all from me at Ocean Purpose Project. Let me know if you've got any questions.
Awesome. You're doing amazing stuff, Mathilda. And thanks for sharing today. And it's just, I can't wait to go out and check it out and totally recommend it to everybody else as well. So fantastic. And okay, so we're going to move on to Sue just now from Marine Stewards, and Sue's going to talk to us about what she's up to. Yeah, Sue.
Can you guys see my screen? Okay, awesome. So a bit of a background about myself. I'm an ocean lover. So whether it's diving, fishing, or just sitting on a boat, I'm like in my happiest space. So we run actually a fishing charter business. And about 5 years ago, we started in Singapore. But around 2-3 years ago, we started noticing that our catch rates have been decreasing over time. So even though we're kind of fishing around the same areas, the difference in the amount of catch was quite drastic. And then so that's where I started to ask the question, why is it that in Singapore, we don't have any sort of regulations for recreational fishing? So there aren't any fisheries management laws in place, things like catch limits, bag sizes, fish lengths, all that sort of regulations we don't have. So that's what inspired me to start Marine Stewards. We basically started talking to friend, other captains, other boats, fishing teams. And turns out it's a problem for a lot of people, right? So, even though fishermen, you think that they might be taking fish out of the sea, but more than anyone else, we do hope to have an ocean full of fish. So our mission at Marine Stewards, let me see. Firstly is to educate and promote sustainable use, stewardship, and conservation of our ocean. And a big part of this is driven because of the type of fishing culture that we have in Singapore. So we want to especially promote sustainable fishing, and also kind of activate sea sports enthusiasts and empower them as citizen scientists to contribute to marine conservation. A big part of that reason is that we found that fishermen are on the water so much, and they started sending us all these sightings of interesting marine creatures, jellyfish, and that was useful information for the researchers who are not on the water, as much as the collective like fishing community. So that's where we started getting more and more people, all sorts of sea sports enthusiasts, kind of contributing their own observations and sightings. So the key areas we work on are education and outreach. The second is citizen science, where citizen science basically means that ordinary people like you and me, kind of reporting, interesting or concerning events, and then from there we're able to feed that to the right researchers for follow-up work. We do provide research support to researchers in all areas like fish, sharks, corals, and we also are involved in community activities that I'll talk about more. So one of the biggest accomplishments that we've done is to come up with the Sustainable Fishing Guidelines for Singapore. And this is a collection of right now it's about 150 fish that are commonly caught. So we have recommended keep lengths for all of these fish. The 3 guidelines are firstly to release juvenile fish. The second one is to no-take protected species, such as the wedgefish, or locally known as the shovel-nosed ray. And then all take invasive species like the hybrid grouper. So this is quite a novel kind of information for especially the fishing community, as well as anyone, divers or people who might be interested in our marine life. You can head over to our website, marinestewards.org/guidelines to have a look if you want to learn more about our fish. So this is an example of the type of events that we hold to do our education and outreach. The top 2 pictures was in January last year, just before the COVID circuit breaker. We got about 100 people into one room to talk about sustainable fishing and about how they can embrace this sort of way of fishing. The bottom left was a offshore fishing competition at Raffles Marina, where we became a supporting partner. And this was the first time an offshore fishing competition in Singapore had a catch and release category. So the message we wanted to bring across is that you don't need to keep and kill a fish to win a prize, right? If you release it, it's just as worthy of a prize. And this was quite a good way to get people starting to think about, hey, I don't actually have to keep my fish, all of my fish, right? I can just keep what I need. The bottom right was the Ziplex Asia fishing competition last year. Again, this was a very successful event. We had about 480 participants. And again, this was the first offshore fishing competition in Singapore with a catch and release category. So we had, quite a high proportion of fish that were actually released. And we even made it stricter, where we said fish below 15 centimeters cannot be kept. So, through kind of large scale events like this, we're able to kind of educate the community about sustainable practices when it comes to their sea sports. Citizen science was something that kind of came about as we were doing our work. People were reporting seeing turtles, dolphins, sharks and rays, jellyfish. And then what we found was, as we started to share this with our online following, we had a lot of researchers, a lot of students actually sent us messages saying, hey, can we get more information about this sighting, that sighting? Because such observations are very useful to their work in understanding the behavior of our marine life. Like, for example, like for dolphins, where were they sighted? If they're sighted in different parts of Singapore, what could be the possible reasons? So this was, I think, the first time that we saw dolphins all the way even at East Coast Park, when they're usually resident in the Southern Islands area. So we do some research support as well, again, because we spend so much time on the water, and we also have quite a large group of fishermen who want sustainable fishing to be our norm. So we do things like assist in shark tagging projects. There's a grouper research project going on right now, and then any other sort of ad hoc projects. A really fun one is the box jellyfish that we started seeing in Singapore since last year. So people started reporting their sightings to us. And it's quite interesting because a lot of times they may not want to reveal publicly where these animals are seen for a variety of reasons. And for the box jellyfish especially. So one of the sightings actually, we started seeing the box jellyfish in one particular area coming up a few times. So we actually arranged with a researcher to go down to recce the place. We waited one whole night. They're more active at night. We didn't get any, but I think it was like 1 or 2 days later where actually a box jelly turned up, and we managed to get that specimen for research. So that's the type of, we're quite closely involved with some of the research work that's happening with marine biologists in Singapore. And then lastly, we do some community work. So there's the Friends of Marine Park network that we're in, where Stefan Beng is the chair. He's here right now, he'll be presenting later. We're also involved in the Friends of East Coast Park network. East Coast Park is the longest stretch of coastline in Singapore. So as you can imagine, there are plenty of people on the water, whether they are doing swimming or kayaking or fishing. It's one of the most popular areas with a lot of interaction between people and the sea. And then we also do other engagements. For example, this one was with the Singapore Food Agency, talking about seafood supply in Singapore. So that's a snapshot of kind of what we do at Marine Stewards. We're very much a open community. So we do invite you guys to, if you're interested, to join in our activities or support us, you can go over to our website, marinestewards.org. So thank you again. Thanks, Wade.
Awesome, Sue. Yeah, it's what you guys have done over the last maybe 3 years is just amazing, and the community that you have. Fishing is probably the most popular on-water sport in Singapore, even though it's probably not classed as a sport yet officially. So, most people who are going out, every marina has fishing boats in it, and I think it's what you guys are doing is fantastic in bringing Singapore up to international level when it comes to this. Okay, so so thanks, Sue. Got Stefan's going to be just talking about the marine park, Sisters Marine Park community. So I'm just going to be sharing my screen for Stefan. Do you want to unmute yourself, Stefan?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Can hear you, mate.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thanks for having me. If we can have the first slide. I'll just be sharing with you on 3 things from the perspective of what I do in service of the marine park. And the first one would be in terms of conservation work. And then I'll move on to share a bit about what the community does in support of our very first marine park. And lastly, just touch on some ways that we can contribute as custodians of our reef and our seas. Wade, if you can go to the first, if you can go to the one that says conservation. Yeah, cool. So I think we're privileged to be in Singapore, to be backed by both the government as well as the scientific communities as far as having a marine park is concerned, and what goes behind making a marine park, first of all, successful. But again, alone, those two communities can't address the challenges that we face today, right? Nor meet the goals, whether it's the 2030 goals or 2050 commitments. That's really necessary to ensure that we live well within the resource limits of our planet. And so when we talk about conservation, it's really good that we're out in the field, getting our hands dirty and just seeing with our own eyes what the detrimental impacts of some of these threats are. But what we try to do, first of all, is to account for what goes on, and as well as what we have. So very first question we often ask is what's pressing, right? What are the things that are threatening? And in today's context, I saw one of the questions, as in today's context, we have a lot of things going on to the ocean that previously weren't happening in tandem this way. We look at things like not just pollution, but also things that change the habitats, as well as things that shift the balance ecologically. So a lot of the focus now is on threats like biodiversity loss, and obviously climate change that does cause this balance, that does also change marine habitats. So we also want to account for what's left in Singapore. Everyone knows that we're land scarce, but we're also sea scarce, aren't we? We want to account also for the fact that within the 193 kilometers of shorelines that we have around our main island, as well as the smaller islands, we do have a variety of coastal habitats. I think we're all aware that it doesn't take us very long to get from our home to a nature area, from mud flats in Mandai to rocky shores in Lazarus, to the seagrass patches in Ubin and Chek Jawa, to mangroves almost everywhere. But talking about mangroves, within our small spaces, we don't have very much left either. We've got about 6.5 square kilometers of mangroves remaining out of the 719 square kilometers that Singapore is made up of, and that's less than 1%. And so a lot of the conservation work, therefore, revolves around preserving what's left, these natural areas that's left, plus obviously restoring a lot of the habitats that have been lost too. So having accounted for that, then raises the real significance and the reason why Sisters Islands Marine Park is so important to us. I guess everybody's kind of familiar why we have protected areas, but the reasons why we have marine protected areas as well, similar to the terrestrial protected areas, is that it's the cornerstone of biodiversity conservation at the end of the day, right? They maintain key habitats, they provide refuge, it allows for species migration, just like Mandai mudflats where the migratory birds come through. Also ensures the maintenance of our natural processes. And I think that's, when we talk about sustainability, that's really what it's all about. And helping to secure the well-being of humanity, really. In terms of what we do, and later on we'll talk about contributions, but what we do locally definitely has global significance as well as contributions. You're all familiar with the green plan that was shared with the government, and so within that there are several master plans that we're contributing to from the ground, like the Nature Conservation Master Plan. And it's useful to know that the groundwork that we do also contributes to our national commitments, not just to the global goals, but to international conventions like the CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity, which Singapore is a member to, and therefore obligated to its commitments. And turned out to be the most important international legal instruments addressing protected areas as well. We also committed to the Aichi agreements, if you're familiar with that, that calls for, terrestrially calls for 17% of terrestrial inland water areas to be protected. But as far as coastal and marine environments are concerned, it calls for a 10% protection at that as well. So ever since the marine park, the Sisters Islands Marine Park got gazetted, I think many of us have seen a difference in the amount and the type of species that we have around the waters. Just given time to heal and given time off of anthropogenic activities, I think nature is resilient enough to heal. But the thing is how much activities are we putting in? I think there's a lot more going on than what nature is capable of coping with. But as far as the marine park is concerned, I think it's been quite fantastic. Observations have been both subtidal by the divers as well as intertidal by the beachcombers. So both reef combers and beachcombers have found not just new species, new records, but also new behaviors. Within our small spaces, we've got over 255 species of hard corals. And I think if you look at the Lee Kong Chian Natural History Museum biodiversity records, you noticed a lot of new records coming through as well in the last few years. So that's really what we're about, and that's why thanks. Wait, well, that was automatic. That's really why this community called the Friends of Marine Park has come together. It's in 2017, basically just to hear each other out, to understand all the needs of the users of our small sea spaces, and then first of all to get along. But obviously we do now, and we're working towards goals that would contribute towards the success of the Sisters Islands Marine Park. So in this community, we've got 5 domains that we've categorized people like you and me. The first one is the recreation side, where it includes boaters, it includes divers and paddlers, as well as the angling community. The research communities are pretty full on. They're busy, and a lot of the institutes of higher learning within this domain works very hard with the managers of our marine park and parks to conduct necessary research so that we understand not just what we have naturally, but also what it takes for them to survive. So this is where a lot of the researchers come out to team up with the recreational guys, for example, where the citizen science stuff can come through and assist with observations and data collection. The other 3 domains include education, and these guys are a very, very necessary group that include the guides, the intertidal guides, the volunteers, also obviously the education sector. And so we're looking at a lot more school kids come through. We also then, a couple of years ago, included cultural heritage, and we brought back some of the previous islanders that used to live and were born in St. John's and Lazarus, and they've come through. I mean, I think as far as conservation goes, it closes the loop on having us appreciate not just what we have naturally, but also culturally. And then the last group we have are the public service. So it's NParks for sure that have started this initiative really, but also we've got all the agencies trying to chip in to see how best they can get involved in the work of the community. Okay, one of the things that you may have read about is is the fact that we have a community space called Panera Bay, and I think we'll fill you in a little bit more on how the boating community can get involved there. But essentially, it's more a place where the community can come together just to share activities that benefit both the marine park as well as the people that use it. And so we celebrate a lot of social cultural diversity here, but we also work with a lot of businesses that allows us to sensitively approach, I think, root socioeconomic causes of biodiversity loss and a lot of the other threats that our ocean faces. So within this community, the SBIA is really the point, the Singapore Boating Industries Association, led by Mr. YP Lok. But definitely encourage all of you to come together and to actually find a space where you can contribute back to the sea, really. So I think we can all contribute meaningfully to not just the global targets, but through our influence within our own communities. And I know the boating community is pretty tight and also pretty friendly, and I love being around you guys. And I think you can take it further by honing in actions locally, like collaborations within between the communities, and help to achieve some shared goals that support our nation's efforts in the forms of nature conservation and national commitments to global targets as well. So as far as contributions and what you can do, just thinking off the top of my head, I'm a diver, so I log in a lot of dives. I've got heaps of skipper friends that log in, that do your skipper logs and note down every single activities. And really, that documentation is where the observations come through, right? As the simplest thing you can do, because we all do it anyway. But as Sue pointed out a while ago, these observations become then pretty useful because first and foremost, you have a good network amongst yourselves, and by logging, by sharing, by reporting, by outreaching to your own communities and to alert each other. Hey, look, I'm always going down this strait, and there are turtles popping their heads all over the place. I think that network plus that documentation would result in a pretty good product that the scientists can use, that would also inform management and policy of not just our marine park, but our waters in general. And I look forward really for this culture to be created in terms of boaters working with the rest of the community in protecting nature and obviously coming up with an etiquette to respect other users as well. So over to you, Wade.
Oh, thanks a lot, Stefan. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, it's just been Stefan's one of the first people who took me out to like the marine park area and really explained it and what's going on there and just how connected they are between the government and what they're trying to do and achieve at the marine park. It was just fascinating. If you got time, definitely have a read up about it and check what it says. Guys, we're running like pretty far behind time, but I thought we just open it up to the panel if we can. So we'll have if Sue and Mathilda and James, or just Sue and Mathilda, yeah, and Stefan, you can unmute. And just got a couple of questions that came in that just going to ask you about. The first one, this is to the panel. What do you see as the biggest threat to our surrounding marine environment, and what are some of the key innovations and actions to help tackle these threats? Start with Mathilda.
Sorry, could you repeat that again? I think the audio just dipped out. One more.
Okay, so yeah, so what do you see the biggest threats to the surrounding marine environment, and what are some innovation and actions to tackle these threats?
Well, I mean, like, let me speak about what it is that I know, which is passer risk. Here in Pasir Ris at this time, because of the monsoon season, we're getting a lot of stuff that's coming up from, like, it could be Malaysia, it could be Thailand as well. That's based off the things that we're picking up, right? So a lot of this is single-use plastic, single-use food containers. Now, that's not just a Singapore, that's not just our other countries are polluting our seas. A lot of this is also our activities, the activities that we do on the beach, people who are coming for a picnic, people who paddle, people who kind of fish in that area as well, cigarette butts, fishing lines. I mean, these are some of the things that we see washing up, like on this particular beach. So some of the work that we do is before our cleanups and after our cleanups, we actually talk to some of these fishermen. We talk to the people that are there. We actually invite them to come join the cleanup as well, because this then gives them an idea of how some of their behaviors on the beach is actually affecting, what we're seeing. So when it comes to things like cigarette butts, we see a lot. Okay, I know what I'm about to say is really gross, but I'm seeing a lot of this stuff. We see water bottles that are kind of filled with pee, because you have people who are paddling or fishing, around that area on kayaks, and where do they pee, right? And so that stuff washes up. Sometimes I say when I do a beach cleanup, it's almost like an archaeological Indiana Jones journey. We see all sorts of stuff that washes up. Now, for me, the way that we want to tackle this is, okay, we can do these cleanups, but there is a contractor called Chaitya Maintenance that is actually contracted to clean these beaches for like 10 to 12 hours a day. Now, the idea is, first of all, we need to pick up what's already at sea. Then comes the second bit, which is there a way that we can change behavior before we get into the technology of it? Change behavior to the point where it would hurt somebody financially to actually throw that plastic off a boat, or off into the oceans or into rivers from other countries. And so that's really where we're trying to get that at source. If individuals are the issue and single-use plastic is the issue, so that's really what we're trying to do and tackle those two things. Of course, in terms of the global view on plastic, what's happening now is with extended producer responsibility and countries also stopping a lot of recycling plastic from leaving the shores or even entering certain ports. The idea is with our plastic to fuel unit is, if the plastic can't come to us, we will then go to the plastic. And we will now be able to downsize as many solutions as we can. Plastic to fuel is a solution, not the solution. There's many other things out there, right, that are able to really look at how do we take that single-use stuff that's already at sea, prevent that from further degrading and further removing carbon dioxide and hydrocarbons into the atmosphere, and incentivize that. So I think, the technology bit as well as figuring out the behavior bit and the incentivizing bit, these three arms have to come together in order for that level of change to work. I mean, we can fit all the knowledge of the universe into the palm of our hand, right? Now, mobile phones. So I'm pretty sure, we would be able to crack this in the next couple of years.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And Sue, what do you think is the biggest threats to the local Singapore environment, the marine environment in Singapore?
Well, I think the threats come from all sides. The three main threats to me are, first is marine pollution, and that can be plastics. That's also noise pollution in the sea. The second could be habitat loss. So with land reclamation or clearing of mangroves, this is clearing away important nurseries and is a large part of the ecosystem. And the third threat is the threat from fishing. So it's a difficult question to say which is the biggest threat of all. But I look at which threats can we possibly tackle and be effective at it. So it's not just for Singapore. I think this is a global issue. So according to the FAO, majority of the world's oceans are either are already fished at unsustainable levels. So for me, that is one of the big threats.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you nailed it. Stefan, what do you think is the biggest threat to the marine park or to the marine environment in Singapore?
Yeah, I agree with Sue. Yeah, I think two main areas is any threat that comes from man-made or anthropogenic stresses that causes sedimentation, that causes pollution of any sorts. Because with it comes other problems. So we had one project that I was involved in where we were taking care of a mudflat habitat, and the tides used to bring in large pieces of debris, and over time an invasive mussel species clung onto that, and caused quite a bit of a scare. So Mathilda's right as well. I think it's not always just about the action of cleaning up or arresting behavior, but I think a lot of the citizen science work that people like Sue do revolves around collecting data for specific purposes, and in terms of marine debris, it's all about finding the source of where it comes from, and perhaps even the seasonality, if it changes how it gets brought in, and then we can do that. So it's very, very important to have science-backed decisions. But also the other big threat everybody's aware of is I think all the threats that come with climate change, because it's not so apparent, it's rising sea levels that's been on the news, and what we can do to adapt to that. But it's also a couple of others like ocean acidification as well as the rising sea temperatures. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Stefan. And James, you got something quick you want to that you think? Unmute.
Okay. Yeah, basically, everybody's just highlighted some really important factors. Elaborating, obviously, not trying to repeat everybody else. I think the main threat is obviously the lack of knowledge, and trying to communicate an awareness within the industry, as well as the people the boaters who use it, as well as the general public. It's just about highlighting the do not throw the plastic or leave the plastic on the beach. They might think it's okay and pile it up next to a bin, but it blows into the sea. It's okay to people think, oh yeah, it's fine. I just put after their beach experience, they just put it in a plastic bag and tie it up and think somebody's going to go and pick it up, but it just blows into the sea in the meantime, and then it's everybody else's problem. So I purely think it's more awareness and education. It's just by highlighting these things, by repeating exactly what the governments are saying, highlighting information. All the information is there online. It's just a matter of reproducing it and sending it out to the community where you're in. Really, probably that's what I've got to add. Thank you, Wade.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, James. Yeah, I think pretty much everyone hit the nail on the head, and it's sort of really where we wanted to talk about for this webinar. And thanks again. We've gone over time a little bit. Sorry about that. And I think if you have any more questions and that you'd like to put toward, please don't hesitate to send me an email. The one thing that I would definitely recommend doing is just to go out and be involved with either one of these amazing communities. But also there's plenty out there. There's beach cleanups on the weekend, because once you do go out there and you do reflect on what you're doing, obviously if you've watched Seaspiracy in the last week or so, you'll understand as well, like how much, just us consuming fish, that type of thing as well, how much it plays. So yeah, just it would be just amazing to continue this story on. And I think although we've got our own separate communities, we are all tied together by the water, and Singapore is a big island, so there's no reason why, from Passeries beach cleanups to Southern Island, Sisters Island marine parks, fishing boats everywhere, there's no reason why we shouldn't be just having more dialogue, having a bigger voice, and having a bigger community. So yeah, just want to thank everybody for coming along, and we'll be sending out a survey tomorrow sometime, and also a link to this webinar so you can actually see it, and then I'll draw out live the winner, and then hopefully we'll see you in a month's time. We're going to be doing this every Wednesday, different subjects covering different aspects of the marine industry, and yeah, just please don't hesitate to send us your input anytime you got, and thanks a lot.